Hello everyone. Our guest for today's session is Mr. Indranil Roy, designer, creator, and founder of Avian Design and a design sprint advocate. He has worked as a freelance designer for over 2 years. I am Rohan Avra, a coordinator of VIT Hack 2020, and I feel honored to host today's session. Hi Indranil.
Okay, hi Rohan. So let me just start with a quick introduction about what we're going to be covering today. So most of my business is about how we can work along with startups and how can startups leverage design thinking in the form of design sprints to be able to get design sprints are like an agile methodology for design. So the traditional design processes, which used to user experience design processes, which used to stretch upon to almost 30 days to 60 days to 90-day projects, are now trying to be concise down into 1 week sprints. So the frequency is increased. So you maybe sprint every month, but the first week of the month, you sprint, you come up with the design, then you push it into development. Then by the next month, you set up smaller goals. So you basically do the same user experience process, but in smaller aspects. Now, the next thing is, what is design? Most people confuse design with aesthetics or beautification of products, but design is truly about the experience. It's about how you feel a product, how you interact with it, how you engage with it. And then the next question comes is that why design? I mean, why do I need to make that feeling much better? And to go into that, I want to start with the history of design thinking. So where did design thinking start from? At the early ages, from the pre-revolution era before 1750, there were everything used to work on a barter system. There were craftsmen who used to create ingredients. They would either create tools and stuff like that, which were all handmade. And that is where design actually started from, because they used to create better tools from a utility point of view, from an aesthetics point of view, from a usability point of view, and that was the initiation of design. And as strategy started coming to play, so the moment we started shifting into the Industrial Revolution, this was the time when strategy and craftsmanship kind of came hand in hand and started working together. And that is the time when actually design thinking was found, which was like the perfect blend between craftsmanship and strategy. Where Bauhaus is actually the first institute in the world, a German-based institution, which started preaching design thinking and early stages of design thinking, where they were talking about usability, how to create that differentiation factor using design, and how to make that experience so pleasurable of using a product that people keep coming back. But that was an expensive process. That was a time-consuming process. That was difficult. And because during the Industrial Revolution, strategy started taking a hype and people started realizing that right now there are, let's say, only 3 car companies in the world, right? So there is not much competition. So the whole agenda and the whole strategy took a path when it shifted into the Madman era, and when they were like, okay, we just need to create presence. We just need to be out there. We need to reach as many people as possible. And the more we reach, the more people will become our users, the more sales we can make, the more revenue we can generate. And that was the whole advertising era which came in. And that time the whole design industry took a hit, because people started looking at design as just aesthetics. They were like, okay, design is a beautification of the product. It doesn't need to go hand in hand with the strategy of the business or the strategy of the whole product era. And that is when the value of design fell down. And after the Madman era, when the market started getting very cluttered, very saturated, and people started realizing that, oh no, I mean, I need to be unique. I need to be better than the 10 other people doing the same thing as I am doing today to be at a more advantageous spot. And that's where design thinking was reborn. And that was in the digital age. So in the digital age, startups are the people who benefit the most from design thinking, because they're trying to enter markets which are cluttered, which are saturated with traditional forms of businesses who have created monopolies, and they want to get into these billion-dollar industries and make a huge change using design thinking. And that is exactly why design thinking is necessary. Now, the next thing is, what is the need for design? In today's world, in the digital era world, there's a there are 4 different competitors. There's Swiggy, For Uber, there's Uber, Ola, and there are more and more competitors coming up in the globe. So each and every industry is now getting saturated. There is an abundance of choice to the consumers, to the people who are purchasers or users. So that is where you really need to cut through all the competition, and you need to stand out. You need to stand out with your unique selling point. You need to stand out with the experience you're able to give to your users, so that it is so pleasurable that tomorrow they want to come back to you just because of how easy it is to use your service. And that is where the need for design comes in. Now, if I talk about the proven ROI, okay, why do people want to invest in design? Why do people like me run a design firm and run successful design agencies? Why do my clients, startups want to come and invest in design thinking? In most startup businesses, the moment you're trying to enter a huge market, the customer acquisition cost is high. You wanna have a very strong price point so that your scalability factor is in place. And that is where your profit margins keep going down and down and down. And the profitability of most of these kind of businesses start increasing when you start retaining customers. So let's say in year one, you had a goal of, okay, I want to get 10,000 customers on my platform or on my digital product. But to acquire that, let's say you spent X amount of money, and 90% of the X got spent in acquiring those customers and developing the product and refining the product. And that is when you realize that, okay, to make this business profitable, my majority of profit margins are going to start coming in from year two. When, let's say, if I sold to 100 people today, for every 100 people I sold to, I managed to retain 20 people. Because tomorrow when they keep coming back to you, that is repeat business, and that is pure profitability. And that is how most of these startup businesses are able to generate massive revenues, are able to, I mean, especially the ones which are bootstrapping themselves. And so that's how we quantify the ROI of why design thinking is needed, and how you use design thinking, and what is the tangible benefits of having great design in your product. Then the next step is behaving like a startup. So this is where the foundation of a design sprint comes in. So most startups are very fast moving businesses. They are designed for high growth. They are designed to aim for a 7x growth at a minimum. Because any investor, if they look at your business and they say that, okay, I want to put in 1 CR into this, or I want to put in 50 lakhs into this business, they will come back hoping for a 7x return. Your startup is successful only if you're able to give them a 7x return at a bare minimum. And for that, you need to move fast. You need to be quick. You need to be agile. You need to you need to refine your design. You need to refine your product on the go. You can't spend time doing a lot of research. You won't have those kind of funds. So you need something which is short, which is cheap, which is quick, and which is effective. And that's exactly where the design sprints come in. So what is a design sprint? Like I had mentioned earlier, design sprints are basically agile processes for using design thinking in your startup journey. There are multiple different formats for design sprints, and I wouldn't say that any one of them is right or wrong. It all depends on what kind of a startup you're doing. One of the models is by MVS. The second one is by Google Ventures. The one we follow is usually Google Ventures, and it's a 5-day sprint they do for user experience design. So the problems or the challenges you want to solve with your user experience will be quantified in smaller units. So you'll just say that, okay, when I start, this is what my competitors are doing. This is what I want to do differently. So the first thing I want to build and enhance my experience for is this small aspect. Okay, so you target that. You do this 5-day sprint. You come up with the ideal experience you want to provide with your consumers. You roll it out. Within a month, it's rolled out. It's in the industry. People are using it, and then you test it with them. You get feedback from them, and that's how you keep iterating. So the sprints are processes which you want to do ideally every month or every quarter, depending on how fast your business is growing. Now, how does a design sprint work? What is the process? I mean, what do you do? So the day one is empathizing. So one of the most important, if I were to put design sprints in 3 words, what are the 3 things you need to do to create an amazing design? Is you need to be collaborative. You need to be collaborating with your team. You need to be collaborating with your marketing guys, your sales guys, your product team, your designers, your developers. You need to be collaborating with your users. You need to be co-creating the product with your users. So you need to be talking to them. throughout the whole way. You need to use tools to be able to empathize with them. So like a couple of them are creating personas where you map out and say that, okay, let's say for example, if you were designing a door, you would want to keep in mind the shortest guy who's going to walk through that door and the tallest guy who's going to walk through that door, so that you know that everybody in the middle is going to fit in. So you have two ideal personas which are for the middle people, one for the tallest guy, one for the shortest guy, so that based on that you decide, okay, where's the lock going to go, where's the door going to go, how tall does the door need to be, and all of that. And based on this empathy, you will know who you're designing for, how you're going to design for them, and then you start ideating. While ideating, you're supposed to go crazy. You should not limit yourself with anything. You should try thinking out of the box. You should, so there are multiple methods for that as well. There's one crazy eight which we usually use, but there are multiple methods to ideate and come up and brainstorm with multiple ideas. So you come up with a huge bank of ideas to solve that problems which you're addressing through the sprint. And once you have this whole pool of ideas, the next step you need is to start shortlisting. Now, in every sprint, there is a sprint team. So the sprint team, like I mentioned earlier, there are marketing people in it. There's a whole team in it, and there are ideally a user or two users who are involved during the step 4 of the process. But in step 2, now you've ideated based on your empathy and based on the processes you've done on empathizing, and you want to narrow down on your ideas. So that's when you start analyzing them, critically analyzing them, doing impact versus feasibility analysis to understand that, okay, what are the ideas which are high impact, which are going to deliver a high ROI to my business, and how much is it going to cost to implement it? Is it actually worth my time? And that is when you start realizing the true value of brainstorming and how to brainstorm and how to actually narrow down to your ideas. Then the day 3 is prototyping. So whether it's a paper prototype or it's a Figma or a XD prototype, but some kind of a tangible outcome based on your ideas to showcase it to the final users, to be able to make them experience the idea, so that day 3, once you've done with the prototyping step, on day 4, when you're user testing it with the users, you can start collecting real insights. So it's not based on assumptions anymore. Within 4 days, you have started getting actual user insights on how they're engaging with your prototype. Are they actually liking it? Are they not liking it? Where are they finding it trouble? Where are they finding it troublesome? Are they getting intimidated by the UI? Is there an abundance of choice? Basically all the pain points which need to be addressed throughout the process. And then on day 5, based on all of these insights which you've collected, you analyze those insights, you come up with strategies to reiterate on the design, so that as you push it into development, now you're almost 80-90% confident that whatever I'm going to be building tomorrow, whatever I'm going to be investing in for the development, is going to work out. I know that there's a market for there. I know that I've already tested it out with 5-6 of my ideal customers, and I know that they are loving the product which I've designed so far. So that is the whole aim of what a design sprint, that is what a successful design sprint looks like. The 3 possible outcomes out of a design sprint is, sometimes you might also feel that, okay, this did not work out very well. After my user testing, people are not really liking my product. But that doesn't mean that your startup is a failure. That means that you need to get back up, start another design sprint, start it again next week. So that within 2-3 weeks, you can refine on your design stage itself, so that that, okay, now I have a product which people actually love, before you decide to put in the extra amount of time or money or whatever to actually get the product developed. Then why design sprints? So first, it's short, it's cheap, and it's fast paced. So you can a design sprint within a week or max 2 weeks, you can ideally come up with the best kind of an experience which you want to start off with. And this 1 week or 2 week can be repeated again monthly, quarterly, based on how fast the business is growing. Second, it helps you test ideas and solutions. So you actually are co-creating with your users. So you're getting real insights on your ideas and your thought processes throughout the whole design process, so that you are actually, it's not, your designs are not based on assumptions anymore. They're based on actual results. And that's the third point, that it's results instead of research. It's not based on theoretical data and stuff like that. It's actually based on real life engagements which you're doing with the real users. So it's a qualitative way of designing over a quantitative way of designing, where you're doing huge surveys and you're collecting mass data. Because in surveys, you will miss out a lot of the nitty-gritty pointers which need to be taken care of in the initial stages of design. Then fourth is the why and when should you be doing a design sprint? So one is when you're creating. So when you're coming up with a new product idea, you have an idea and you want to, bring it in on board. Second is when you're improving. So you already have a product in the market, you have your designs ready, the development is almost done, you're about to launch, but now you want to start thinking about phase 2, you want to start thinking about phase 3. What's going to happen next? And that's another ideal case scenario for doing design sprints. And then the final case scenario is when you want to pivot. So if let's say that, okay, like for a very realistic example, during COVID, a lot of businesses took huge hits in terms of their revenues, in terms of their customer base and all of that. And because of that, a lot of those businesses had to pivot, they had to adapt to the new normal, to be able to survive, to be able to still thrive in this new era, right? And these are the 3 ideal case scenarios where you want to be running design sprints. And that's about it. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for taking out the time. You can always visit us on our website, and you can book a consultancy if you want to have a one-to-one with somebody from our team who can guide you through the design thinking and design sprint process. It's absolutely free. And also, the second thing is we are right now building a product which is going to be launched in the end of November, called Desiate, and it is a tool to help startup founders, early stage startup founders, to run their own design sprints. So it's like your DIY toolkit or your DIY guide to run design sprints. And yeah, I'd like to end my presentation with this and start off with the Q&A.
That was quite an insightful presentation, to be honest. We have a bunch of questions in the chat. So the first question goes like, could you explain a bit more about customer acquisition in early stages of startups?
So customer acquisition is definitely an expensive activity. And most early stage startup founders would be people who have not raised a lot of money, who probably don't have enough capital in the bank to spend, huge amounts of money into advertising to acquire customers. So at the early stage, while you're still validating your concept, while you're still validating your startup idea, the best way to go about it is think of organic routes. Think of places where your customers are going to be. Think of how you can get there for free. So without paying any money, how can you get yourself in front of your ideal customer? Put your product out there, put your MVP out there in front of them, and try gauging. Are these people jumping on board? How excited are they? Because that excitement is one going to give you enough confidence to put in all your savings or put in a good amount of your savings into your product. Second is it's gonna help you raise investments. So even investors are gonna look at that and be like, okay, this guy went to a place with, let's say 100 people there, and out of the 100 people, almost 20-30 came to him for free, and they actually decided to started using his product. So that was free customer acquisition. So at early stages, you set smaller goals. I mean, don't look at like a 50,000 customer acquisition in let's say your first 6 months of business. Look at, let's say, 1,000 or a 5,000, but 5,000 should be purely organic. You shouldn't be spending a single rupee on it. And once you've gotten your validation and you're now confident that, okay, I can now put in, let's say, X lakhs into this, or now I'm confident enough that I can easily go to any angel investor and raise whatever money I need by dissolving some equity. That is when you get into the paid model and start optimizing your campaigns and keep reducing your customer acquisition cost and start scaling up.
The second question that we have is, what is your approach to conducting empathy interviews?
So towards empathy interviews, the first step we do, like I said, is creating user personas. Now that will again depend from startup to startup. It depends on what stage you are in, how much UX have you already done. So I'm going to just give you 2 examples to broadly classify them or categorize them. First is, let's say, an early stage startup. Okay, so let's say tomorrow you end up coming up with a product idea and you say that, okay, I want to build a product for co-working. So I want to gather from them. And then you find like a bunch full of, ideally you shouldn't be doing more than 5-6 interviews. But these 5-6 interviews should be qualitative interviews where you're spending almost an hour talking to these people, asking them, how did you book your last co-working space? What was the price limit? Would this idea be something which you would be willing to use? What are the drawbacks? What are the pain points? You basically want to figure out that what is the lack in the market. There are already existing systems trying to solve everything, and there are internet businesses trying to solve almost 90% of the things, unless you're in something which is very, very niche, right? And that is why you need to understand what's happening and how to cut through the competition. Now, if you're an early stage startup, you need to start from scratch. So in the first sprint, you'll start getting some insights. By the second sprint, you'll become more mature. By the third sprint, you'll become even more mature. So as the maturity level of your startup keeps growing, and as you keep knowing more and more about what you need to what your customers need and want from your business, then your design process keeps getting better and better.
So one thing about design sprint, since it's a very collaborative niche process, where you need everybody from the company. Like my ideology of sprints from the book Design Sprint by Jake Knapp, I have a very specific thing where you need everyone ranging from the partners to the designers to the developers, sitting there in one room, ideating about things, ideating about problems and its solutions. But ever since the COVID has hit in, what do you think is the future of design sprints? How do you think such a collaborative process can take place in a during the post COVID or during the COVID situation, where people are in different countries? Let's assume I am working in a co-space where my developer is from, let's assume, Dubai, and he's in a total different time zone. How do you think such a collaborative process can actually occur in different time zones and collaborations now?
Yeah. So let me tell you how that can be done. So a lot of the design sprint, see, you need sprint meetings in place. So how you have Scrum meetings for the agile methodology process, you need meetings like that. And because there is a certain amount of collaboration which happens, brainstorming which happens in those meetings you should account for at least 1 to 2 hours of your time. Now, 1 to 2 hours, Dubai is still not the best example. Let's say US, for example, okay, because their time zone is completely the opposite way around, right?
Absolutely.
So with that, see, in my business, if I just quickly brief you about my business, under Avian Design, our core service is design sprints. So what I do is I offer design sprint as a service to my clients, and most of my clients are startups, right? Some of them are funded, some of them are bootstrapping, but all of them are startups. Okay. Now, even before COVID, we were working remotely. Our whole team was setting up remotely. We have been working completely in collaboration using tools like Google Meet. This is like almost sitting in a room, right? If 4 people were sitting on a Google Meet, it's almost like 4 people sitting in the same room. And there are some tools, online tools, like if you have used Google Docs before, there are tools like that which are now enabling these kind of collaborations digitally online. So similarly, we use a tool like Miro, which is for our user experience documentation. And for user interface, we use Figma, XD, whatever. All of these are online digital tools which can be collaborated. I can share my screen and walk you guys through, stuff like that. So that ways, when I set up a team, I set up like maybe let's say 1 UX designer, 1 UI designer, 1 developer is on the team, and we all collaborate together during the sprint meetings where we all come in, we brainstorm together, and then the documentation piece where we're putting those ideas, putting flesh into them, and creating documentations for it so that we can always look back to it whenever we need to refer to it. That is done by the UX designers who are sitting in India, who are maybe, see, I'm operating out of Bangalore right now. Last month I was operating out of Delhi. I have somebody from VIT actually also who has recently joined us, Sumant. I don't know whether you guys know of him or not, but he has been working remotely. So all of our team is from across the globe. We have vendors in South Africa, we have vendors in India, we have clients in US and in Australia. So the whole process is happening very remotely. So is it doable? Definitely. We were doing it even pre-COVID, and there are companies which are doing it post-COVID also. AJ and Smart is one of the industry leaders.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Who are running remote design sprints today to enable these kind of collaborations. We are also building a tool like Desiate, so which is going to be enabling this kind of a remote collaboration. We have already started signing up for beta customers. So tomorrow, this is going to be the new normal. You're going to be, if you're running a global business, you need to start being able to work remotely.
Absolutely. And what are a few challenges that you, as a company, which is providing, services like design sprints, are facing? Because I remember AJ and Smart talking about a few challenges that they as a company have been facing for a while.
Okay.
What do you think are a few challenges that you as an Indian startup where design is not given such emphasis currently in the in the tech culture, but to be honest, me myself being a designer, it's booming. It's
Yeah.
genuinely booming.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me
Startup
let me
CEOs are, yeah.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I totally get your question, and I have a very tailored answer for that, and I compare it with the real estate industry.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so what happens when do people invest? Whether it is their, see, because design sprints is also a huge time investment, right? If you're putting, if
Exactly.
somebody who is billing at, let's say 2-3K an hour, is putting in 2-3 hours of their time on every project, collaborating 1 week of their time, 2-3 hours from their day every day on one project itself, that is expensive. That is an investment. That is a time investment. It is a cost investment. And the only people who will be investing are the people who see a clear cut ROI. So initial stages of our business, I mean, we have been in business for almost 2.5 years now. Initial 1 year of our business, we were acting like a traditional UI UX design agency, where we were working with e-commerce brands as well. We were working with websites as well. And slowly, as we matured as a company, we started realizing that who are the people who are willing to invest in design. I mean, who are the people who are willing to put in their time, put in their money on design. They are people who see their digital business as an asset. Anybody who is starting a startup today is not gunning for a 50 lakh revenue, right? They're gunning for a $10 million revenue, $100 million revenue, $1 billion revenue, right? Now these kind of people, for them, their business, that is their asset, that is their biggest and their core asset. So the people who are willing to pay for design, who are willing to invest their time, who see the importance in design, the collaboration is seamless because they are as immersed in the process as we are, right? So it's basically just choosing the right kind of people to work with, choosing the right kind of clients, choosing the people who know that, okay, if I set up a product business, there are two possible outcomes: either I fail and my product fails and I lose an X amount of money, or and what will those people do tomorrow? They'll start up again. They'll keep starting up. They'll start up thrice until they hit success, right? So if I compare this with the real estate industry, any guy who's going to build a building wants to get a great architect, right?
Absolutely.
We spend on architecture. So
Yeah.
design is the architecture for an application. So if your business, if your digital asset, if let's say Zomato is worth whatever billions of dollars, Zomato is worth billions of dollars because of their product. So for them, their biggest asset is their product. Tomorrow, if I'm building Desi 8 as a product business, my biggest asset, I mean, I'm also spending an immense amount of money to get this product out there, right? And because I know it's my asset, I am willing to spend on design. I am willing to spend on development. I don't want to compromise there because I know that tomorrow, if this works, it is going to be worth a lot more than what I have spent today, right? So ideally, the people who understand the value of design and the people who are willing to invest their time and money into making great design, those are the people we want to, those are the people we work with. So the challenge part is when we end up, so we have a huge assessment criteria also during our free consultancies. When we talk to the startup founders, we understand their business model, their growth model, their revenue structures, their P&Ls, to see whether this startup has growth potential or not. If it doesn't have growth potential, then that guy is not going to invest because he is not confident in his idea. The moment the startup has growth potential and the guy knows that, okay, I'm going to put an X amount of money and I'm going to make 10X out of it tomorrow, then he doesn't care. He doesn't care what that X amount is. If I'm putting in even $1 million today, if I know I can make $10 million out of it, I'm willing to spend $1 million on a product development, design and development.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And usually the design piece is anywhere between 10% of the whole product budget. Obviously, startups which are competing in a more competitive space would be spending about 20-25% of their whole product budget on design. Startups who are in a more niche space where they know that, okay, let's say we're selling rocket propellers online. Their market, there are probably three competitors, so they don't care. I mean, I can
Yeah.
spend 1% or 5% of my budget on just the design, and those are also people who we're willing to work with. But for them, the design is not very important as a part of their business.
Yeah, one thing is that that's a very similar analogy that I give when someone asks me what is design in tech industry today and
Yeah.
where do you see it's growing. One other thing is in the startup culture now, design is not typography and color theory anymore.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
about human biases and psychology. So
yeah.
we have a bunch of questions now. We have like quite a good amount of questions regarding startups. So one thing is how okay, this is a very interesting one. How
Okay.
did you get into design and where did you start from? Like because
Yeah.
the
So
the initial point of your map is not really decided. We would really love to know how did you collaborate between startups and design.
yeah, yeah. So if I talk about myself and give you a quick background about myself, I have graduated around 1.5 years back. I set up my business around 2.5 years back. I studied at a design school based out of Bangalore called Srishti Institute, and
Okay.
I graduated in industrial design. But a progressive design school like Srishti emphasizes on design thinking. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you use that design thinking for visual communication, whether you use that design thinking for user interface and user experience design, whether you use that design thinking for designing physical products, or whether you use that design thinking for, let's say, designing systems and services. I mean,
Hmm.
that's also a huge upcoming field, system and service design. So
Yep.
all of these are fields in design where the core remains the same, which is the empathy part, where the design thinking process remains the same, but the outcome is different. So I have now gotten into the UI UX business because I come from a background where I have been very well acquainted with technology companies, and I've worked with technology companies almost most of my career, even early stages of my career as a freelancer, then later as a vendor, as a partner. So because of that, we have realized that okay, UI UX and in any business, the moment you want to start scaling up, you need to start specializing, you need to start narrowing down. You can't keep doing 10 things and still decide to scale up. So to scale up, you need to have very robust processes and structures in place, and to do that, you need to start narrowing down and put your pin down on this one thing, and that was the UX UI. So it's been a lot of experimentation. I started in college when we were in third year, and first year we were doing a lot of different kind of web design projects, app design projects, a lot of whatever we used to get our way. We were just trying to hit our monthly, quarterly revenue goals, and cover up our costs and make sure that we're still profitable and we are able to continue running our business. But after that, within the next year, once I graduated, I started doing a lot of international travels. I went to Brisbane, I went to Hong Kong, I went to Dubai, and I went to a lot of networking events, even in India, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, to attend and understand the whole startup ecosystem across the globe, the whole design ecosystem across the globe. And that is when we slowly stumbled across design sprints, and we were like, this is the new way. This is the new way which startups need, and which startups can afford. The price point fits them perfectly, the timeline fits them perfectly, it's fast, it's cheap, and that is where we actually stepped into the game, and when we start scaling up.
One thing about design sprint is see design and product is okay. One analogy that I really want to set and I want the audience to know about is UI UX is not just UI UX anymore. We have a new terminology for it which is called product design.
Yeah,
And product design, the word itself defines that why is it called product design today, because it's evolving, and when startup culture comes in and when you're building products, you're not just talking about the interface and experiences, you're talking about the biases of the customer and what kind of decision making capabilities do they have. So about design sprints, when we talk of design as a iterative process, iteration is the most important aspect of design. When I talk about design, I cannot emphasize more on how much iteration is important. But when we come to frameworks like design sprints, where the goal is to get shit done asap, like get things
yeah,
done as soon as possible. And
fail fast.
yeah, at that point of time, how do you make sure that the iterations you have done are enough? Because the projects that I have worked on, I think of iteration as it comes instantly to you. So one iteration comes to you in 10 days of interval, whereas design sprint is only a 7 day 7 day
Yeah, yeah.
framework.
So the
So how do you
design
make sure?
Yeah, so if I were to answer that question, I would say the design sprint is usually purely focused towards the user experience design part. So it is the creative process where you come up with ideas. The ideas might not be limited to just user interface. The idea, one of my ideas could be that, oh, we should have great customer support. How do we get great customer support? Let's use chatbots. Let's use let's hire an outsourcing agency in India who we can use for amazing customer support or whatever. So while you're brainstorming or while you're doing the design sprint, it doesn't lie just to the product design. It's for the whole startup. It's for the whole business. Look into your business as a service or a product or whatever you're trying to offer. What is the value add you're trying to give? Break it down, see what other people are doing. Again, pain points are the biggest thing. Figure out what are the pain points which these startups are not, which other competitors are not able to address, and that is where you sweep in. And after that you do the UIPs. So usually the sprints which we do with our clients, where we do the UX and the UIPs, it lasts for around 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, depending on whether it's a 50 screen application, whether it's a 200 screen application, or whatever the quantity. Yeah. Based on the scale. I mean, a lot of mature startups, when they come to us, they already have a product which has 50, 70 screens, and they're generating revenue, and they're like, okay, now we want to go to the next level. So our sprint goal is that, okay, till now, these are the pain points we are facing. So they come to me with the pain points and we need to solve these. So we do the UX sprint to solve those pain points, come up with multiple different ideas, some ranging with product design, some ranging with development and new forms of technology which can be incorporated to make the experience more seamless, some with just the offline service. So if you're looking at a startup like Zomato, they also need to ensure that the delivery guy who's coming to your doorstep is wearing that t-shirt. Is getting you the OTP done or whatever. I'm not very familiar with the process, but you get the point, right? You get the point. So I mean that's about it. So it can range longer. And again, I would say that as a startup, never aim for perfection. Never aim for getting it right in the first go. You never need to get it right in the first go. Even if you put out a shitty product out there, it is fine, because if you were to spend 3 months or 2 months designing and developing and continuously iterating on the product, hoping that you're going to get the right fit, it is going to be a huge investment. MNCs can do that. We can't. Startups can't do this. Okay.
Absolutely, that is one thing.
Yeah, for us, put in 3 weeks, launch with a shitty product, see whether you're able to solve the problem. People will come and tell you, oh, this is shitty, that's shitty, whatever. And use all of that feedback, use all of that critical analysis which people are giving you. So instead of having a long 3, 4, 5, 6 month development process, now you've cut that down to 2 months. Because you launch a shitty product within 3 weeks, okay, people are telling me that, okay, I have feedback forms going out every day to my beta. So don't scale until you're perfect. But while you're identifying the market fit, so while you're figuring out what is my ideal price point, or am I solving the problem which I'm aiming to solve, that time be fast, keep launching, keep having soft launches. I mean, launch with 100 people, 500 people, just test it out with them, do it again. If it fails, it's fine, it's good it failed, because you know why it failed, fix it next month, and within 3 months, I can blindly bet and say that within 3 months, you will get your product right. And once you have gotten your product right, then it is time that, okay, now figure out how we can scale this. And in this beta process of building your beta design, your beta development, you also understand about beta marketing, which is one of the main reasons, which is one of the biggest things you also need to know as a startup founder. A lot of people think I'm going to just build a great product and people are going to start using it. But you need to know how to get the word out there, how to pitch your startup idea in a way that people are able to grasp it in seconds, if not minutes.
Yeah, so when I break down the analogy of design sprints to designers, right? One very good way of solving it down is a designer creating his first ever portfolio. So portfolio takes you forever, and designers are, it's very infamous that you just don't end up making one. So one very good process is to just make one,
send it,
make it, upload it, and keep iterating, just keep adding things, keep changing your visuals of the website and whatever.
Yeah, and a lot of the people, I mean, like tomorrow, if you were applying for an internship or a job with Avian, you'll send your portfolio to me. Absolutely. Even if I don't like it, I mean, even if I feel that, okay, it's covered 50% of the things which I wanted it to cover, I will ensure that somebody from my team gives you feedback on that, so that tomorrow when you apply again, I know that first of all, this guy is applying for the second time, so he's showing immense amount of interest in working with us. Secondly, he took our feedback in a very positive way. He actually implemented it, and a lot of companies do this. I mean, I agree that a lot of huge companies are not able to do this because of the amount of applications which they get, but a lot of boutique agencies like mine are actually putting it out there, they will help you in creating in improving your portfolio, because tomorrow, I mean, we also want great talent working with us.
Absolutely. Makes sense. So let's take few more questions from the chat. We have what messages do you have to aspiring students that want to aim to begin beginning startups? So are there any tips and tricks that you want to give to students who are willing to start a startup in the coming future?
Yeah.
Keeping in mind the COVID situation, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first thing would be, don't look at raising funds. Don't look at taking external money. If you can bootstrap it, as long as you can, only go to raise funds when you are ready and you know that you've found your market fit and you're ready to scale, because that time you're going to get a good deal. If you go early in, you're going to get snapped by equity, and your startup is already, the chances are that your startup is, the chances of the scalability aspect of it is already cut down by 50%, because some investor has come in and eaten a big pie of your piece. Okay. Then the next thing is that, one is that don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I mean, experiment. You guys are young. You can make mistakes. Make mistakes, but just make sure that the mistakes do not disappoint you too much that it makes you, give up. And make sure that you keep on going. Keep on trying. You need to keep on trying, refining, iterating, whatever you want to call it, until you figure it out. And as an entrepreneur, that's the biggest thing, because you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, and if you can survive the downs, there's nobody who can stop you from becoming successful. Then the last thing I want to add is, there is, I don't know about you, whether you know it or not. Have you heard of Y Combinator?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Y Combinator is one of the biggest accelerators in the world, and they have startup school, which I mean, I have personally spent a lot of money as well, and I've traveled a lot of places, attending a lot of startup events, and I've consumed a lot of knowledge which is being shared in the startup ecosystem by industry leaders, by speakers from, CEO of Make My Trip, Sandeep Pichindani, Naukri, and all of these kind of guys. And
Yeah.
I will still say that you don't need to spend that kind of money. You don't need to actually go and get that kind of a knowledge, because right now, recently, I stumbled upon startup school, and I would say that it has compiled all of it in a very amazing way. And whoever is looking at starting that should just hold it as their Bible. Just follow it. Everything they say is very real, very easy to follow to. And if you start following that, and if you start using that as your base for your startup journey, it is going to really, really help you grow fast, and it's going to really eliminate a lot of chances of failure which could have been there, which you couldn't have anticipated, because you guys are young, you don't have a lot of experience, and you might be scared. You might be thinking that, okay, maybe I should go and work somewhere for a couple of years before I start up my business and stuff like that. But to be honest, I don't believe in that at all.
So for everybody who does not know what Y Combinator is, I'll give you a very, very small introduction to it. It's basically, if you are an engineer, what is IIT to an engineer is what Y Combinator is to startups. So I hope that makes sense to you. Next question. Next question that we're going to take is, what was the inspiration for you to start a startup?
So I have always been entrepreneurial by nature. While staying in college, I started freelancing. That was my first step towards entrepreneurship. I actually, the first time I landed an internship and I got paid for it, I was like, okay, I mean, this is amazing. But, I felt like a very small cog in a huge system. I interned with Autodesk in second year. And it's a huge MNC, right? And there you just feel lost. You just feel like, I don't know whether my contribution towards this kind of a business will ever be significant enough to make a change anywhere.
Absolutely.
And that's when I started realizing. Then we started freelancing. We started working with very, very small scale clients on an individual basis. And then when we started perfecting that, we started jumping into creating teams. So we started doing branding, animation, a lot of design things, and created a bouquet of services, so that we were like the holistic one-stop shop for startups, not startups, for businesses, for their design needs. And then we started realizing, because of the variability we had in our processes, it was very difficult to streamline, very difficult to scale. So later on, we started cutting it through. But the first step I wanted to do was, I wanted to start up a service business, because service businesses are usually profitable. B2B space, you make a sale, you make money, you're profitable from day one. And that is the space we entered in early on. and because of that we have been able to make enough profits now that's kind of like a cash cow where we're generating. That's where I'm making my money from. And then from there tomorrow, now I'm starting to invest in startups and starting to invest in ideas, where I believe in, one of them being Desiate, which is a product which we are powering by Avian. And tomorrow, similarly, we're getting involved in other startup journeys also, where we feel which have immense potential. So now the next step is that, okay, like why people are more enticed towards getting into the product game is because the scalability in product games are immense. I mean you can easily hit a 10x scalability, versus in a service business you can hit a 3x 4x scalability. And so because of that reason, and the team keeps growing, so your management costs, your whole cost of operations also keep growing, so your profitability is less in a service business. But like I said, that if you are on the right track, if you're doing all the right things, it's not a matter of whether you'll succeed or not. It's a matter of when you'll succeed. So it could be your first startup, it could be your second startup, it could be your third startup. But what we are trying to do here is that with Avian, we're trying to generate enough revenue so that in the next 5 years we can launch 5 startups. I mean, test the water, figure out, play in different industries, figure out which one is actually hitting a great fit, and then the moment we realize that, okay, this is growing, then I'm gonna just shut down everything else, put all the money there.
Okay, so now since we have only a few minutes left,
yeah.
Let's not do a design sprint, but let's do a question and answer sprint. Okay, let's do a marathon. So we have like 4-5 questions left. So okay. One question is, what message? Okay, we have, what do you wish you knew before you initiated your startup? It's a very personal question, to be honest.
Yeah, that is a very difficult question to answer. I would say that just go do it. Every startup will have different kind of challenges. The best thing you can ever have, which I feel I have not had till now and now I'm looking for, is a mentor. So if you can get a mentor on board who is in the same industry, who has succeeded in the same industry as you are, they are gonna guide you, because after both entrepreneurs wanna give back, and the best way they know how to give back is helping another entrepreneur. So if you go and approach industry leaders, I mean, obviously you might or might not get responses from CEOs of Make My Trips of the world, but there would be a lot of startups who have made successful exits in the earlier, who in the same industry as you are trying to enter, who if you go and approach as a mentor. If I had a mentor back in the day, if I ended up spending 1.5 years in experimentation and finding my market fit, I would have probably found it in 6 months. So that is something which I believe would be something I wish I had.
Mentorship is something very important, be it any skill ranging anywhere from coding, startups, design, whatnot. Mentorship, you get it, you are going to boom at it anyway. So next question that we have is, what was the inspiration? Okay, we're done with this one. I'm really sorry. What do you think handling design for a startup is tougher?
Sorry?
Brilliant question. Do you think handling design for a startup is tougher? Like, is it tough for a startup to handle design? Because now most of the startups are actually investing more towards design, since prototyping and A/B testing, things like that. Testing your users is very much easier through design. So, do you think it's tough?
I don't think it's tough at all. I think it's very easy to do. I think you can also do it at very cheap prices. So anybody, I mean, who approaches me for a consultancy, also I give them 45 minutes of my time to explain them how they can go about their design journey. Sometimes the right answer is coming to an agency like myself and working with us, but a lot of people might not have the budget for it. For them, I always guide them to do their own design sprints, and then hire UI designers either as interns or as freelancers, somebody who you can get on board at a cheap price, because you can at that stage of your startup, you can afford to spend time, but you don't have money, so you can't afford to spend money. So there are ways of doing it, and I don't think it's tough at all. I would rather say that it is a lot tougher for an MNC or for enterprises to do design, because the risk is a lot higher. If they screw up, it's millions of dollars down the drain. If you guys screw up, it's just 1 month down the drain, and you can always put in another month on fixing it.
So everybody, since we have a lot of startup enthusiasts here in the chat, I would recommend 2 books for everyone to read. One of them I have right beside me, the other one I don't. The one is 0 to 1. This is like a Bible, and the other one is Design Sprint by Jake Knapp from Google Ventures. Absolutely give it a read. The best books you'll ever read. Okay.
A third
Do you?
one I would like to recommend is build to scale.
Oh, yes, yes. Can't emphasize enough. And if you want to learn about human psychology and how your customer think, the other one is Thinking Fast and Slow. Brilliantly read book. So we have three more questions left. Do you think applying design thinking strategies to engineering problems is beneficial?
Absolutely. See, design is a more creative process. Engineer is a more strategic and technical process, and both of them need to go hand in hand. So like I was in the presentation, I explained that in the history of design thinking, that has happened once earlier, like during the mid-industrial revolution, where some startups were born which actually leveraged design thinking to a stage where Steve Jobs was one of the people who actually went to Bauhaus for training himself and getting trained in design thinking, and he is one of the greatest examples of somebody who has leveraged design to grow a multi-billion dollar business. And yeah.
Okay. What tool would you recommend for prototyping? Anything works. I mean, Principal, Prototype, Prototype, Figma. What do you use personally?
We use Figma. We just find it easier, more collaborative, more real time. We earlier used to use XD, but recently we made a shift from XD to Figma. But the tool doesn't matter; it's the thought which
Yeah,
matters.
exactly. What is the importance of beta marketing as a differentiating factor?
Beta marketing as a differentiating factor.
Yes.
So again, I would say that as a startup, you are bound to always think of scale. You need to think of scale because your business is actually going to be profitable and going to be making enough money only if you're operating at a scale. So your beta marketing techniques, when you're coming up with them, you need to think of scale. So you like I had mentioned earlier in one of the questions that first of all, try to keep it free. So try to acquire your customers for free, at least at your early stages. Tomorrow, if you want to start spending on advertising, it's perfectly fine. Once you've started generating revenue and your cash flow positive, it's perfectly fine. But dip your feet in the water. So what I keep saying is that if I were to say step one, step two, and step three to circle out a startup, it's design, then it's development, and then it's marketing and customer support. So you want to dip your feet into design, come up with something, you want to develop it, you want to launch it, then you want to beta market it, you want to beta customer service, whether you're doing it yourself. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it yourself or not. But that will help you dip your feet into the water and understand, okay, what all systems need to be put in place. And while you're designing those systems, the only thing I would suggest to keep in your mind is scale. Tomorrow, these systems which I'm designing today need to be scalable so that tomorrow they need to be so easy that tomorrow I can hire anybody at whatever price point and I can put them there and they can continue replicating that same amount of service experience which my customers were getting while they were interacting with my business.
Absolutely.
That way is marketing, beta marketing is very important, and earlier you do it, earlier you dip your toes into it, the more confident you will be okay, even if I build a great product, I know I can sell it, I know I can generate massive revenues out of it.
I think that will take us to the end of the session. But one thing that I want to say while we conclude is, me myself being an aspiring founder in the future, just want to say one thing: when you start a startup, right, there is no specific framework that a founder can follow. It's all about decision making and thinking that you right now have three options to choose from. Every step that you take in is gonna either lead you to make a booming startup anywhere ranging from Facebook or even Apple, or it can take you down anywhere to the road where your startup is not even known. So just take your decisions very carefully and think twice or thrice before you take any further steps. What do you
Yeah.
think?
And yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with you, and I would say that don't be afraid to fail. Move fast. Every startup every startup is like a human being. We all have our individual personalities, and something works for someone, something doesn't work for someone. So experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid that, oh, will this work, will this not work? Just go do it, and after you do it, you'll know whether it worked or not. And whatever things work, keep replicating it until you hit a scale where you're massive.
Absolutely. So one slogan that we can take from this session is just do it. Just go
Yeah,
for it.
I
Okay.
could have been a brand ambassador for the startup.
Absolutely. Okay, that was a pretty great session. I hope everyone in the chat really enjoyed it. We have a bunch of folks in the chat who have asked like pretty good questions. So kudos to you. Thank you so much, Indranil, for like answering all the questions and being so patient with all of us.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
No
Thank you so
problem.
much.
Thank you for inviting me for this brilliant session. I am glad to always connect with startup founders.
Absolutely.
And for all the audiences, I mean, feel free to hit me up anytime. My contact details will be there on the website. You can come and book a consultancy if you want to just talk to some expert from us. It's completely free. And we will be more than happy to guide you about what is the right route for you to take for your design.
Uh, you can definitely reach out to Indranil on aviandesign.in. You can find the social media handles. Do you want to do a small plugin or pitch
Sorry?
for your social? Do you want to do a small plugin or pitch for your social media so that people can reach out to you?
No, it's okay. I mean, they can reach out to me through my website, or if I can just share my contact
Yeah,
number, you can also reach out to me on WhatsApp, and I will be more than happy to entertain some queries.
okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Okay.
See you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice being here. Okay. Bye bye. Take care. Have a
Bye
good
bye.
day.
Take care.